The aide informed His Majesty that the Empress would soon arrive. The Emperor told the minister that Her Majesty was sleeping too long today. The Empress apologized to her husband for the fact that he had to wait for her for a long time. The girl explained that she could not sleep last night, so she decided to sleep during the day. She added that she was too worried about the future of her people, so it's no wonder she couldn't sleep. The girl told her husband that he was handsome. His Majesty thanked his wife for the compliment and said that she was finally here. Then he called the minister and ordered to invite the people who wanted to meet the Emperor and Empress. One man asked His Majesty to solve the problem and punish the injustice. Another man shouted that they were only here because he sold him rotten potatoes. The Empress was still not used to such scenes and was uncomfortable to be present at such quarrels. But now it was part of her daily life. The Emperor asked his wife to tell these men, who shouted loudly and began to fight, that he would now kill them himself because of what had already been eaten. The Empress listened to the man and said that His Majesty was asking why they should not direct their thoughts to what they were putting into their mouths. She added that the buyer should have checked the product he was buying better, and then there would have been no complaints against the seller. Therefore, all rotten potatoes must be returned. His Majesty was pleased that his wife had handled the matter wisely, and praised her. He added that her interpersonal skills are growing day by day. The girl replied that she had just given them his message, and he was praising her so much. She also said that she learns from him every day. But all this was an absolute lie. The Emperor said that he had high hopes for her, so he ordered to call the following people who could not solve their question. The girl was very upset because of her difficult role. 3 months ago, she was sitting in a comfortable office and was his best employee, occupying the first position in the ranking of service managers of the jungle store. Jin Yo Ram worked as an operator and answered the phone calls of the store's customers. A senior manager approached the girl and informed her that she was the best again this month. He told Jean that she would receive a VIP recommendation for a service representative next week. The girl replied that it would be so and continued to work. But after lunch, she received a call from a very strange client. Jean couldn't understand what he wanted, and the man didn't understand who he was talking to. A little later, the girl managed to find out that the problem was that his water had gone bad. Jean asked if this was the water he bought at the jungle store, but the man shouted at her and said that the water was flowing from the well. The manager said she needed more information to know how to help. It was then that Jean should have ended this conversation. A week later, she would have finally become a permanent employee of the company if this man had not appeared in her life. He called her over and over every day, and Jean didn't know how she could help him. A few days later, she took 3rd place in the manager's rating. This did not allow her to get a permanent job. The senior manager told the girl that he was sorry that management only saw the numbers and not how hard she worked. Jean asked if she could go to that client and settle things, especially since he has been asking her about it on the phone for a long time. The next day, the girl went to an address she did not even know, but she was sure that she would solve this problem and become a permanent employee of the company. When Jean got off the bus at the last stop, she saw a very old wooden bus stop. She decided to sit for a while and fell asleep. After waking up, the girl went further, past the bus stop, looking at a piece of paper with a route. She went out into the field where people were working who were dressed very strangely. People looked at her like an alien creature and asked where she came from. Jean apologized for disturbing their peace. Then she asked where she could find a man named Huang Wook. Hearing this name, people were frightened and did not want to answer her. Suddenly, someone rode up to them on a horse. Jin saw a handsome young man in front of him who dismounted from his horse and asked the girl if she was Jin Yo Ram. She didn't expect anyone here to know her name. The stranger asked the girl if she came here because of water problems. The girl said that it was, and apologized for not being able to solve the problem in the office. The people around them whispered because the real Emperor Huang Wook was in front of them. And at this time, an unexpected guest appeared in the Emperor's palace. The girl shouted at the servants and asked everyone where the Emperor was. The maids did not know where he was, nor did they know what kind of loud girl she was. That's why she said her name. Suddenly, the Emperor of the Han Kingdom, Ryu Ban, came to her. He calmed Baek Gayu down so she wouldn't scream. The girl was surprised to see him here. Jin Yo Ram told the man that she understood his problem and would solve it soon. To do this, she needs to contact the relevant department of the service center. Emperor Huang Wook was also pleased with her proposal. He told the girl that he accepted her apology. Jean breathed that she had managed to fix everything quickly. She said she was very happy the customer was happy, and now she had to get back to work to organize everything to repair their well. And the man asked the girl what the word client means. Jean used to be able to define any term without stopping, but now she didn't know how to explain it to this weirdo. Therefore, the girl simply showed a heart and said that the client is love. People standing on the field began to whisper that the girl had confessed her love. What struck them the most was that someone confessed their love for this tyrant. And Huang Wook himself laughed and said that his assumptions were confirmed. She is indeed gifted with eloquence. The emperor pressed the girl to him and said that he liked it. He asked her to stay with him forever in his chambers. Jean didn't know what to say. Emperor Huang Wook then addressed the people and said that from now on this girl would become the empress by his order. People cheered and shouted loudly, raising their hands up. It seemed to Jin that she had been riding to the emperor's palace for an eternity. She asked the knights how much longer they had to go. They answered that their kingdom is very large. And this is thanks to the great emperor Huang Wook. They drew her attention to his big, strong body, and Jean agreed with them. Then they told her even more details about him. Thus, she learned that Emperor Huang Wook is unmatched in swordsmanship, and his fighting skills are mesmerizing. The knights were also grateful to him for their military skills. The knights told Jin that the emperor had great strength of spirit, thanks to which he chased away the terrible killers from the valley, and for this the people nicknamed him a tyrant. Finally, the girl saw the palace. She was so surprised that the palace was so big that she asked His Majesty's assistant why they built such a big palace for a show. The minister didn't answer. Then Jean asked when she could go back. The man asked if His Majesty had not ordered her to stay with him forever. The girl replied that she was very busy, so she needed to go back to the office in order to solve the water problem and arrange the money compensation. Jean continued to persuade them to take her to the nearest bus stop, threatening to report them to her management. But they did not understand what she was saying. Huang Wook asked the minister to transfer the Lady Empress to him on the horse, because they had to hurry because they were waiting for them. The assistant assumed that Her Highness was waiting for them in the palace. The minister rushed first to the imperial palace and met Ryu Ban and Baek Ga-yu. Lady Baek asked the minister where Emperor Huang Wook was. The aide replied that the emperor had sent him here to tell them the news. The minister joyfully told that the empress was proclaimed today. Baek was very surprised and asked what kind of girl she was and where she came from, and what family she was from. At that moment, Emperor Huang Wook rushed up to them and informed everyone that they had a new empress. Baek asked where this girl was from, because her clothes were very strange. The emperor replied that she was a foreigner. Her Highness asked why her. Does she have any special abilities or was a strategist in her country? His Majesty was indignant and asked her if he needed a strategist. Then the girl asked why he had such an empress. Jean looked at them and did not understand where the television cameras were hidden. His Highness Ryu Ban asked the girl what her name was. She introduced herself to him as Jin Yo Ram, but Her Highness Baek Ga-yu said that she still does not recognize her as an empress. Emperor Huang Wook reminded her that it was up to him to decide. Jean then asked where her palace was if she was the empress. The minister said he would escort Her Majesty to her chambers. When they left, Baek Ga-yu started screaming because the emperor made some obscure girl with no title as empress. She was very angry. Her Highness beat a servant of Emperor Huang Wook. His Highness Ryu Ban asked the battered maid who Baek Ga-yu was in her eyes. She answered, "The captive who mistakenly put on the crown of the chosen child." As the minister escorted the girl to her palace, Jean asked when they were going to admit they were filming her and let her go home. The man asked why she went with him then. The girl replied that she wanted to end this whole masquerade as soon as possible and return home. The emperor's aide realized that she did not quite understand what was happening. He took the phone out of his pocket and showed it to the empress. The minister said that in that month he and His Majesty were hunting in the forest and found this item there. Jean asked if he was communicating with anyone using it. The man replied that this stone connects a person to the empire, wherever it is. The girl was surprised how truthfully people play their roles. That was until she saw her entourage, which numbered several dozen girls. The man told the girl that his name was Song Hoon, and added that she could contact him if she had any questions. And the maid said that they had prepared new clothes for her. Jean was confused. She sat in her room and could not understand what was happening. No matter how hard she searched, she couldn't find a single hidden camera. People seemed strange to her. They behaved as if she was the weird one, not them. It wasn't like they were all cheating on her, Jean thought. Her phone was still not working, and even the air was different from what she was used to. The girl did not want to admit it, but she was, as it were, in another world. A girl came to the Empress's room, who introduced herself as John Ah from the OK family, who has been serving the empresses of the Cho Empire for several generations. The maid admitted that she had been waiting for this day all her life. She said that her grandmother and her great-grandmother had served the empresses of the Cho kingdom, and she had never expected such joy. The girls began to change clothes. At that time, Emperor Huang Wook and the minister were waiting for the empress near the palace. Song Hong said that Her Majesty will be here soon. When Jin came out to them dressed as the empress of the Cho Empire, Huang Wook couldn't take his eyes off her. He told the girl that she liked it very much, and she thanked His Majesty. Jean decided to play along with them for the time being, and then run away as soon as the opportunity arose. The Empress greeted the Emperor and asked what brought him to her in such a humble place. His Majesty was angry because she had said humble, and asked who was in charge of the court. One girl fell to her knees and apologized for displeasing Her Majesty. The Emperor took out his sword and told the maid that he clearly ordered the servant to please the new Empress, and the word modest should not come out of the Empress's mouth. Huang Wook swung his sword at the girl and said that she would pay for it with her life. Jean screamed for him to stop, but the Emperor said that there would be no mercy for anyone who insulted her. When the sword was already in the air, Jean pounced on the Emperor and kissed him. Thus, she lost her first kiss to save an innocent girl. The girl asked the Emperor why he immediately brandishes his sword, if any question can be solved with the help of words. But it seemed to her that he did not hear her. His Majesty, Emperor Huang Wook, now thought only of the fact that they sealed the contract with their kiss. The minister told the Emperor that he was right. Jin didn't understand what was going on, and Song Hoon explained to her that she had just made a truth contract with the Emperor with her actions, which they planned to conclude tomorrow. The Empress's maids began to applaud the Emperor and Empress by order of the minister. Song Hoon told Jin that in their kingdom, lips are considered the source of life. Lip contact between two people means sharing two lives and two truths in the future. Therefore, it is considered a perfect love contract. Jean thanked the minister for the explanation and told His Majesty that she did not know their customs. In addition, her communication is from another culture, and the words she uses do not always correspond to their meaning. The Empress thanked His Majesty for such an honorable position, which was presented to her. The girl apologized to the Emperor for the fact that she foresaw that her words might offend someone. Huang Wook told the minister to leave before it was too late. Jean had a good meal at dinner, but was upset because her jewelry was too heavy and her clothes too big. But the food was so delicious that the girl almost forgot about these inconveniences. Her Highness Baek Ga-yu said that she had had enough and now wanted to go home, but the Emperor asked her to take her time because he wanted her to do something for the Empress. Lady Baek Ga-yu said that she would do nothing for this girl. His Majesty said that he and Ryuban would have to stay in the palace until Her Majesty got used to her duties. Baek Ga-yu replied that she and Ryuban were busy enough to waste their time on this girl. Jean asked His Majesty to take his time with this matter, but the Emperor said that he had already decided everything. He added that this girl has what this kingdom needs and ordered to keep his eyes on her. Huang Wook wanted to see if she was worthy to be Empress. The young man remembered his brother's words that he would grow up and find a wife who would love and care for him, but the brother said that the Emperor had better look for a partner in managing the state. And Huang Wook then answered him that he would never become Emperor. After the Emperor escorted Jin to her palace, she thanked His Majesty for seeing her off and said it was time for him to go and wished her a good evening. The Emperor replied that he enjoyed her eloquence every time she spoke. Jean asked His Majesty to be careful on the way back. As soon as he and the minister left, the girl ran to the forest. She decided to run as fast as possible from here to that bus stop. Jean ran in the dark, lighting her way with the flashlight on her phone. Suddenly, she heard the Emperor's voice commanding her to stop. At that moment, the girl just wanted to die in the same place. A few minutes before, the Emperor visited his brother's grave. He apologized for visiting him so rarely and said that today he had an excuse, because he had finally found the perfect Empress. And now his past and future are in one place. Emperor Huang Wook asked the girl why she wanted to run away from him. Jean made up on the go that she was looking for His Majesty. Then he asked why she was looking for him in the dark forest. The girl showed the flashlight on her phone and said she was looking for His Majesty to light his way. Song-hoon asked the girl to teach him how to do the same. The emperor said that his men had lanterns, but he asked them not to light them because it was very hot outside. Then the girl said that her flashlight did not emit heat. Hwang Wook agreed with the empress and asked Her Majesty to light his way because it was quite dangerous for a young lady in the dark forest. As they left for the palace, Jin asked why they were going the other way to the emperor's palace. Song Hong replied that they were returning from the Jin Kingdom War Memorial. Suddenly, some unknown man who was not local appeared on their way. He said that he did not understand how he got here, and the knights pointed their swords at him. They asked who sent him here and threatened to kill him. The man begged to spare him, as he does not understand anything and does not remember what happened to him. Jean noticed a modern watch on his hand and was very surprised. The young man said that he walked for a long time and got here. Then he called people dear customers. It was then that Jean was convinced that this man was from her world. The emperor told the man that he was very sorry that he had lost his memory, but strangers were not allowed to enter the territory of his kingdom. Hwang Wook drew his sword and was about to deal with this stranger, but he asked not to do so and called the emperor a valued customer. The emperor remembered the words to the girls that a client means love. He then said that only Her Majesty the Empress could call him that and swung his sword. Jean stopped his weapon again. Hwang Wook told the Empress that she was too kind and caring. The girl said that maybe this man got here the same way she did. She explained that it features items and accessories that people in her country wear. Jin asked the emperor if there were such things in their empire. Song-hoon said no. His Majesty said that even in such a case he could not allow a stranger to roam freely on the grounds of the palace. So he will question him tomorrow. The emperor ordered the knights to accompany the man and confiscate from him the things the empress had spoken of. Jean asked His Majesty's permission to be present at the interrogation. The girl was sure that this man from her world recognized her as soon as he saw her. She was very curious if he knew her. Could it be that they worked in the same office? She also thought about whether she would ever be able to return home, and how he got here. The emperor asked if she wanted to apologize to him or thank him for something. Jean automatically apologized to His Majesty, even without understanding why. After becoming a consultant in the call center, the girl could say, sorry and thank you, and these words meant nothing to her. But His Majesty Emperor Hwang Wook said that she shouldn't apologize for anything, which she does all the time. He added that she can be free for today and go to rest. Regardless of her feelings, regardless of whether she was wrong, Jean had to say those useless words. But this rude and proud man ordered her to be stingy with them. It was the first time in her life that she heard such words. In the evening, the girl could not fall asleep for a long time. She has already accepted the fact that she has entered a completely different world. The girl accidentally found herself in some eastern country with a tyrant emperor, in which all people say what they think right to your face. Jean was upset that when she got here, she did not become the daughter of the emperor or some count from a noble family. It seemed to her that then everyone would simply adore her. Later, Jean remembered with sadness how her own parents threw her away at Christmas, leaving her at the entrance to the amusement park. She did not understand how it was possible to do such a thing on a holiday that everyone was enjoying. Her second parents gave her up while still on the path of adoption, due to the fact that she behaved very badly with strangers. And the third refused her again, because of her bad behavior. The girl decided to sleep and solve everything in the morning. She didn't like the nighttime because memories always came to her head, and they are very painful. It was the words of parents and insults from her clients. And only Hwang Wook told her that everything she says is wonderful and priceless, so she shouldn't apologize and thank everyone in a row. Jean decided she was right. In the morning, the maid Jung-ah woke up the empress and told her that the emperor had already gone to interrogate the man who had been caught during the night. Jean quickly jumped out of bed. She quarreled with the maid because she did not wake her earlier. The girl ran to His Majesty's palace. Suddenly, she heard behind her the clatter of hooves and the neighing of a horse. It was His Highness Han Ryuban. He reported that he had orders from the emperor to accompany Her Majesty. Khan put the girl on his horse and they set off for the palace. The stranger from another world was silent during the interrogation. The only thing he said was that he would speak when the empress came. The emperor forbade him to say the word empress. Jean realized that people in this country take everything at face value. They do not know lies, so they always tell the truth themselves. They were surprised that the man did not answer their questions. When they reached the palace, Han Ruban got down on one knee and told Her Majesty that she could stand to dismount. The Emperor, seeing this, became very angry. Her Majesty apologized to the Emperor for being late. His Majesty replied that everything was fine and asked to take a seat next to him. Baek Ga-yu looked down on Jin and told her not to think of herself as special. The girl added that earlier she could also occupy that place. Jin smiled because she was wondering if Hwang Wook liked her. The Emperor praised Han Ruban for a job well done. Song Hong told Her Majesty that the stranger was asking for her. It was really strange. The man looked at her as if he knew her. The Empress asked the minister what he had already told them during the interrogation. It turned out that he revealed only his name. Han Jin-gong, he repeated again. The man added that this is the only thing he remembers about himself. The Empress asked if he did not remember at least something else. Dear customer, jungle, customer support, said the man. The Emperor added that these were words he could overhear during their conversation with the Empress. Discount coupon in shopping cart. If you buy now, the product will be delivered tomorrow. Fast delivery. We hope to serve you again, VIP customer, muttered the man. The stranger said that was all he remembered. The Emperor asked Her Majesty if she knew the meaning of these words. She was silent and pondered over how it happened that this person also ended up here. Then the man said that he was willing to die if even the Empress did not know the meaning of these words. Baek Ga-yu nervously asked the girl if she knew or not. Emperor Hwang Wook approached the Empress and told her that if she did not know what he was talking about, then this man would be found guilty of trespassing into imperial territory. Thus, he will be sentenced to death. Hwang Wook added that if she understood his words, he would support whatever she decided and agree with her sentence for the foreigner. Jin was surprised at how much the Emperor trusted her. Even when she gets in his way or wants to run away home, he still believes her without a doubt. The girl understood that she needed the help of this person in order to escape from here to home. Therefore, the Empress replied that she knew what the foreigner was talking about and asked to keep him next to her. Jean noticed that the Emperor was considering her words. It was then that she realized how much her words meant and how much power this arrogant person had. After carefully considering everything, the Emperor told the knights his decision. He decided to finish the interrogation and do as the Empress wants. But His Majesty added his conditions. Whatever the situation and time of day, the Empress is not allowed to be alone with this person. Jean thought it was wonderful to be an Empress. She liked the fact that the Emperor listened to her and did what she asked. The girl remembered how, until recently, she had to deal with customers who annoyed her. Their complaints and threats caused her to lose sleep. Jean decided not to be happy that she wasn't there right now. After all, she will still have to go back. Minister Song Hong told the Empress that he would order this man to be bathed, and then he would be brought to her. Jean needed this person with his skills, which do not exist in this world. In front of Hwang Wook sat his brother. He said that he had heard that his brother had chosen an Empress, and the fact that she is a rather strange girl who, as it were, fell from the sky. The brother suggested that Wook had succeeded in achieving what he had failed to do. Hwang Wook replied to his brother that from the moment he left this world, he simply followed in his footsteps. Then the brother said that he knew how much he missed the days when they were together. Wook began to shout for his brother not to go, but suddenly darkness appeared in front of him. The Emperor woke up and Jean was startled by the fact that he was waving his arms violently. The girl apologized for waking up His Majesty, and he apologized for scaring her. They were informed that the people gathered for the appeals were coming through the main gate and would be here soon. His Majesty said it would be the first official meeting of the Empress. Jin told the Emperor that she had no right to participate in the appeal process without completing the imperial reception ceremony, and the Emperor said that he cancelled it. Hwang Wook added that he knows she hasn't had enough time to adjust yet, but he'd really like to rely on her. This really surprised Jean. A man in the crowd told His Majesty that it had been quite some time since he had picked up a stray girl and made her his Empress. Finally, the long-awaited holiday, Emperor's Day. This is a special annual event for the people. To prove his long-standing capabilities as a monarch, the Emperor personally meets with the citizens. At this time, citizens have the opportunity to apply to the court and obtain permission from His Majesty for their questions. Noble families also participate in the court. This was done in order to prevent the possibility of a dictatorship. But these greedy nobles have been waiting for many years for the emperor to make a mistake. And now they came with questions about Her Majesty. An old nobleman asked His Majesty if this did not give them the right to collect more taxes. The emperor did not understand what he was talking about, but the old trickster said they should collect more taxes to thank the heavens for sending them such a sympathetic empress. The man added that His Majesty's predecessors would be offended if they did not. After these words, Huang Wook laughed so much that it even scared Jin, who was standing next to him. The old nobleman asked if he had said something funny. The emperor warned the man to watch what he said in front of the empress. Another noble reminded His Majesty that he should be more careful about his actions on this day. He said that the emperor must prove himself worthy of the throne. The man added that it was their obligation, as members of noble families, to follow His Imperial Majesty, and they might have to find another emperor. Emperor Huang Wook became angry and told him that he could personally introduce him to the Emperor of the Dead right now if he wanted to find another emperor. The emperor then turned to Her Majesty and said that she would be his interpreter. Jin didn't want to, but Huang Wook reminded her that it was her job as empress. His Majesty pointed to a certain man and ordered him to come forward and read his address. Jean thought it was very strange what was happening here. Before, she thought that all people feared the emperor and obeyed his orders, so she believed that they would bow their heads to him. But now the girl saw that not all people were on his side. Jin wondered if Emperor Huang Wook's power was more fragile than she thought. One of the nobles said that there is such a parable. If an incompetent emperor sits on the throne, then nature will show it. Her Highness Baek Ga-yu indignantly asked the emperor why he had summoned them with Han Ryu-ban. Huang Wook replied that it was the first day of performing the duties of the empress. Then the emperor ordered the nobles to quickly read the texts of their appeals and not waste their time with the empress. Then one of the nobles said that they planned to collect more taxes. Now the amount collected from citizens is enough. But in order to avoid a shortage of money in the future, the nobles wanted to increase the amount of taxes from each citizen. Jean understood that even in this country there are people who want to fill their pockets with money. She recalled how at home she constantly read the news about how someone had once again appropriated public funds. The empress approached her husband, and he told her that he wanted them to get out of here as soon as possible. Her Majesty said she understood everything and announced the emperor's decision. She said that this law will be adopted in relation to all citizens of the empire. From this point on, taxation should take into account only the wealth of a person. The empress added that if someone does not agree, they can leave this country of their own free will. The emperor smiled and told the nobles that that was all and they could be free. Baek Ga-yu asked the emperor if he had really told the empress that. Huang Wook replied that his wife was incredible because she knew exactly what he wanted to say to her. While the emperor and empress listened to the following citizens, Song Hong brought the captive Han Jin-gung to Choa's maid. The girl was surprised how handsome the man became after bathing. After they met, the minister left them alone and went to the palace on business. Han asked the girl if there was a library here so he could read books. Choa told him how to get there, but added that there was no way the guards would let someone as suspicious as him into the library. Han said it was very offensive. Then the man asked the girl where she had just come from. The maid said that Her Majesty began her duties today, and her sleeves were torn. So the girl said that she just sewed them up and came back here. Han Jin-gong very much asked the maid to take him to the empress so that he could look at her while she worked. At that time in the imperial palace, two people argued about which of them was the real heir. They told Her Majesty that the wealthy Sir Seo Pilju had died last week, and only someone from his bloodline can get his vast wealth. Jean really wanted to be able to pull a hair from each of them and conduct a DNA analysis. The girl did not understand what she could do as an empress, if there was no such thing as forensics in this world. The emperor said that there was nothing they could do since Sir Seo was already dead. After some thought, the empress happily shouted that they would be able to confirm the lineage. And if she manages to do it, then all her efforts will be worth it. Jean recalled an incident at her job in a call center, where a customer demanded a refund for a fake necklace he had purchased at a store. Then she managed to find out that the store sold a real certified necklace, but a courier delivered it to the client. First, the girl contacted him. When it turned out that the courier was not at fault, Jean realized that the client deliberately wanted to make money in this way. Then she figured out how to teach him. He continued to call her and demand her refund. The girl said that she checked everything and apologized for the fact that such a situation occurred. Jean told the customer that the refund process would take several days. He was pleased and thanked her for her help. Then she found a sample refund message. The girl copied the refund message, changed it to her client, and sent it to him. In this way, he will be sure that she has done everything, and the money does not come for some reason. Now the Empress knew exactly what had to be done, and told the young man and the girl that she would listen to each of them. The Emperor offered his wife to sit on his throne to make it more comfortable. Her Majesty asked to bring her a writing instrument. The Emperor ordered the minister to bring a brush and paper to the Empress. Bayek Gayu looked at Han Ruban indignantly. Her Highness asked him if this girl had the right to sit on the imperial throne. Han Ruban replied that it was really strange that Huang Wook would let someone take his seat. Han added that this girl was really important to the Emperor. Meanwhile, the Empress took up a brush with paint and paper and began to communicate with people one by one. First, she asked the girl what her name was and where she was from. She replied that she came from the Han Kingdom. The Emperor said that the Han is a vassal state of the Chou Kingdom, and their royal family has the surname Ryu. Han Ruban told the Empress that he was the current king of the Han Kingdom. Jin smiled and asked Han if he and the Emperor were brothers. The king said they were cousins because their mothers were sisters. Jean thought to herself that they didn't look like each other at all, and they didn't get along very well. Returning to the matter, the Empress asked the girl if she had lived in the Han Kingdom all her life. She answered that it was so, and told that she lived with her mother, and a year ago, before her death, her mother told her about her childhood. Although until this moment, as the daughter did not ask, the mother did not tell her anything about her biological father. Jean thought that even though everyone told the truth in this country, it didn't mean that people would reveal all their secrets. Like King Khan, he won't tell her the whole story in its entirety. The girl continued to tell her story. Her mother told her before she died that she had buried a box in the back garden in which she would learn her father's name. After her mother's funeral, the girl dug out the box and found correspondence between her mother and Sir Seo Pilju, and a book of her childhood drawings. The Empress asked the girl if her mother had told her something strange before she died. The girl replied that she had ordered her to go to the kingdom of Chou after her death. And she also said the following strange words: "An elbow, a crescent, that boy." The young man said that he came here from the kingdom of Chou. At first, he worked as a maid for a housewife. One day, a servant from Sir Seo Pilju came to his lady's house and claimed that the Sir was looking for his own child. The servant asked if the child who was left 15 years ago was left here. Some of the servants remembered when the boy appeared in this house. That's how the young man found out that he was the son of Sir Seo Pilju, who was dumped on a rainy, soothing summer night. The Emperor leaned over to the Empress and quietly told her that this was the 6th time they had come here with this question. Jean realized that these people were her persistent customers. He added that the young man brought witnesses with him each time to testify, and the girl says the same thing every time. The Empress was uncomfortable with the fact that His Majesty was so close. Her Highness Baek Gayu noticed that they were talking like lovers and suggested that Han Ryuban leave. But the young man said that they should stay. He wanted Huang Wook to know that he had no right to keep someone close, even if it means he has to steal that person from him. The Emperor assumed that these two people were twins. First, they are similar to each other. Second, each of their claims sounds convincing. Then the Empress asked why he did not tell them about it. Huang Wook said that they both disagree with that, and each claims that he is Sir Seo's only child. The Empress asked if the Emperor was sure that the girl told the same story every time. His Majesty said everything was being recorded so it could be verified. Jean was glad that there was such an opportunity, because she knew that people in this country did not lie. The Empress told His Majesty that she would find out, but it would take some time. Minister Song-hoon brought the documents along with the box the girl was talking about. I remember it was 15 years ago, on a rainy, soothing summer night. After opening the front gate, I saw a boy crying because his parents abandoned him. Jean read the testimony of one of the witnesses. Han Jingong looked into the hall and saw Empress Jin sitting on the imperial throne. Choa said that they should wait until they finished their appointment. Please tell me, Jin, to come visit the Chou Kingdom. I really want to see my daughter. I don't know if I will be able to find you before I die, Jean read in the letter. After reading again about the elbow, the crescent moon, and the boy, what the mother said to the girl before she died, Jean understood everything and asked them to come to her and show their elbows. The Empress came forward to them and said that after seeing their elbows, She was sure of her guesses and could now accurately pronounce the final decision. At first, she turned to the girl and said that it was difficult for them to verify her story because she was the only witness. But the girl provided a lot of evidence that confirms her words. Then the Empress told the young man that he had many witnesses, but no evidence. Surprised, the boy asked if the testimony of witnesses who say the same thing is not enough. This is what confused the Empress. Her Majesty asked how all the servants could remember the events of one night 15 years ago so well and describe it in the same words. The Empress noted that all the witnesses told about the events of that summer night quite joyfully, although, in fact, it was a rainy night, and because of this they probably had to wash a lot of dirty laundry. Therefore, it looks as if someone said to them, "It was a rainy, soothing summer night." The young man said that Sir Seo's maid actually found him after his father died, so he is the true heir. The Empress agreed with him and said that it was so, but that's not all. Her Majesty said that all the witnesses used the word reassurance in their evidence. That was how Seo Pilju felt. Jean then said that she had read all the letters that were in the girl's box and her mother's diary. The events of a rainy summer night 15 years ago were also mentioned there. Looking through the letters, the Empress found out that there were not so many such rainy days here. Therefore, most likely, these are the described events of the same night. The Empress said that she would now explain to everyone what she understood. One summer day, many years ago, a married couple broke up after a big fight. They went their separate ways, each taking one of the twins. The woman raised her daughter, but the husband had neither the strength nor the means to raise his son. Therefore, he left the baby on the doorstep of a rich man's house on a rainy summer night. Thus, it was a rainy, soothing summer night for him, because he finally settled his son. The girl said that her mother never told about it. Her Majesty said that while going through her things, she realized that Sir Seo Pilju had 2 children. Until his death, he desperately searched for them both. The Empress announced her decision. She was sure that in front of them were twins whose father was Seo Pilju. Han Jin Gong, who was spying on the Empress, was very upset that Jin had decided this matter. He believed that this answer would not suit anyone. Each of them wanted to be the only heir in order to receive all the property of their wealthy father. And now they will live with the idea of taking possession of the other half of the property. Han recognized the Empress. She seemed to him very similar to the girl he met a long time ago. Cha Yi-sul was a state strategist. When they met, the girl said that she was very happy that her partner would be a person who is as talented as herself. Han Jin Gong had just missed his chance to become the commander-in-chief then. Cha said at the time that she hoped they would see each other more often while working at the imperial palace. Her Majesty asked the Emperor if he wished to announce the sentence. His Majesty Emperor Huang Wook said that he knew from the beginning that they were twins. But knowing that they craved arguments, the Empress spent her time and effort to provide them. His Majesty added that now they should establish their relations as relatives. Huang Wook praised the Empress for her good work, and said that with her help, the 3 days in honor of the Emperor would go well because he had such an intelligent woman by his side. Jean thanked His Majesty for the compliments, and suddenly saw the man in question next to her maid. The Empress asked what they were doing here. Han Jingong said he wanted to see Her Majesty. Then the Empress apologized for not meeting him earlier. She asked to remind her if she forgets something. When I see you and Huang Wook together, I think of one person I will never forget. I planned everything well to lure him into this trap, Song Hoon thought. After dinner, the maid Cho-ah asked His Majesty and the Empress if they would take the bath she had prepared for them together. Their Majesties shouted no at the same time. The Emperor said he would go first. Sitting in the bath with hot water, Huang Wook pondered how he should now share his room with his wife, since he was already used to being alone. Jean waited in the room and did not understand how things had turned like this. 4 hours earlier, Her Highness Baek Ga-yu had said that Han Jin-gung was a boy toy for the Empress. The young man replied that it was not so, and added that he was pleased to see their Majesties in love together. Han apologized to them for not spending their wedding night together because of him. After all, they got married yesterday, and because of the fact that he ended up, it was not before that. Therefore, Han said that he sincerely wished that they could enjoy this blessing tonight. Jin replied in shock that she was only performing the duties of an empress, assisting His Majesty in business. Jin Gung asked if that meant he was her comfort toy. Baek Ga-yu said that it was, and Han Jin Gong asked if he should join the Empress in her bedchamber. The emperor got angry and asked what kind of nonsense this was. His Majesty approached the young man and said that the empress is his wife, so she will fulfill all her duties. The emperor added that they would spend their first wedding night today. As they walked in the garden, Jin asked the emperor if they had agreed that she was only helping to convey his words to the citizens correctly. The emperor replied that everything would remain so between them. Then the girl asked why he did not explain everything to that man. Huang Wook replied that it was because he really needed her. Jin said she could handle a variety of situations, but asked how much more time she needed to do all of this. The man replied that he would help her to get used to it here as soon as possible. Now Huang Wook suggested the girl take a hot bath. Jin screamed as his towel fell to the floor. At that time, the servant at the door asked if everything was okay. The girl asked the emperor how long they would be eavesdropped on. Huang Wook replied that all the servants would stay outside the door until morning to witness their first wedding night. Jin was shocked by his words. She asked what they should do. The emperor said they could pretend. He added that he would simply remain silent and not answer their questions. Then Jin thought it was a good option. Therefore, since no one can lie in this country and he will simply remain silent, then everything will work out. She only asked what would happen if they were asked until they got answers to their questions. Huang Wook replied that they wouldn't dare, but smiled. Their Majesties had just gone to bed when Baek Ga-yu knocked on their door. She wanted to witness their first wedding night in order to tell the details to all the maids. The emperor kicked her out after a little quarrel. Then the maid Cho-ah came and brought some herbs that help men. They kicked her out too. After her, Minister Song-hoon came to them. He said he wanted to record their wedding night in the National Archives. The emperor also expelled him. Huang Wook apologized to the girl for everyone around him behaving so strangely. His Majesty explained this by the fact that they have to see the imperial wedding and the first wedding night once in their lives. In the morning, they were both grumpy from lack of sleep. The emperor told all his servants that there was nothing between them and Her Majesty, and she would continue to perform her duties as empress. Someone from the servants asked what to do now with ancestral rites and hunting. His Majesty replied that the hunt would go ahead as planned and would be a celebration for the empress. Minister Moon Gak said that he considers ancestral rites and hunting unnecessary, as indeed does the empress herself. Minister Song Hong reminded the old minister that he was in front of the emperor himself. Moon Gak said that no one can tell him what to do. The old minister expressed his opinion that one should let go of the past and live in the present instead of worshipping the dead. The old man asked what's the point of being a great warrior if you don't use your skills. He added that they had conquered a large area of the Jin kingdom, but were not making good use of this land, and the ghosts of the past still roam the imperial palace due to the fact that the memorial is located inside the palace grounds. Baek Ga-yu and Han Ryuban were shocked by his words. Han Jin-gong eavesdropped on everything behind the door and memorized important information. Rites of ancestors, hunting event. The emperor asked the old minister what he wanted. Moon Gak proposed to destroy the memorial and make a rest area for the palace workers there, and also to reward those who helped conquer the Jin kingdom. His Majesty asked his assistant if he had written everything down, and then he came up and thrust his sword into the leg of the old minister. The emperor said he wanted to add something. Huang Wook said that during the war, there were actually a lot of deaths, and he devalues the hero's exploits with his words. Therefore, people like him are not needed in this country. The old minister shouted at His Majesty that he had no right to raise his sword against him, for he was of the Great Moon family. Huang Wook replied that it was. The emperor added that his family maintains an alliance with the royal family. Old Moon Gak asked if His Majesty would leave him to die for the dead. His Majesty Huang Wook replied that those brave men are no longer in this world, but he remembers the sacrifices they made, and how Moon used their deaths to increase his influence. Jin was shocked that Huang Wook hit the man with his sword, and that no one seemed particularly surprised by his action. The girl wondered if the rumors about the tyrant were true. Moon Gak asked the emperor how he could do this to him. Baek Ga-yu shot him in the arm with an arrow. The old man shouted and said that they from the Jin family were not allowed to enter the palace. The emperor ordered old Moon Gak to be taken out of the hall. His Majesty then asked Han Ryuban to accompany Her Majesty to the main palace building. Jean was terribly frightened. She thought about how to escape from here as soon as possible. She thought Huang Wook was capable of all kinds of terrible things. Han Ryuban said he was walking her, But the girl replied that she wanted to walk alone. But Ryuban invited Her Majesty to ask him the questions that worried her so much. Then the girl asked why her husband did this. Baek Ga-yu was surprised to ask why he asked Empress Ryuban to accompany him instead of going alone with his wife. Hwang Wook replied that Han Ryuban is the only one who can do it because he doesn't smell like blood. At this time, the Empress answered His Highness Ryuban's question. Her Majesty thanked him for the offer to explain everything, but added that she would like to find out everything herself. The way things work in this country, how problems arise, but to understand why people witness violence without turning a blind eye. The girl said that she does not know how to behave when this happens in front of her eyes. The Empress promised to approach His Highness after she had sorted out her feelings. Moon-gak begged to let him go and tried to run away. Suddenly, Han Jin-gong approached him and asked what he could do to help him. The old minister was very surprised and asked the stranger what he needed. Han said he was impressed by his words, but believes His Majesty's actions were too radical. After all, he responded with violence to simple advice. Old Moon-gak was amused, and told the young man that he was a man with a good head on his shoulders. Jin-gong asked if there was any way he could help him with his hunting or ancestral rituals. Moon replied that no one was allowed to hunt except members of the royal family. And you can get to the memorial, because all family rites will be held there. The minister said that there will be many aristocrats at the memorial who want to see the slave from the Jin kingdom. Moon-gak added that it would be nice to order a word for him in front of them. Han Jin-gong said that this was a very good plan, and stabbed the man in the heart with a folding knife. Then he asked him what it was like to be killed by the hands of a Jin slave. Maid Cho-ah found Han Jin-gong and asked where he ran away from her. The young man replied that he decided to take a walk in order to refresh his memory. Cho-ah scolded him and said that he is not allowed to leave the palace without permission. Then she said that the Empress had to wake up early tomorrow, so she needed his help. The guy apologized to the maid for the trouble he caused her. She said that everything is fine and left. Han followed her, holding a knife in his hands behind his back, blood dripping onto the floor. Jean walked around the palace with a phone and tried to get a connection. She thought that he must be somewhere, because the Emperor called her somehow. The girl decided to check the connection in the palace itself, when no one would be around. But suddenly she became very scared. She thought about what would happen if someone saw. Jean was also worried about what would happen to her if she was caught trying to escape. The girl did not want to live here and be a submissive empress until her death. The next day, when everyone went hunting, Jean took her phone with her to try to get in touch in the forest. Song Hong warned everyone to be careful with the predatory animals. The Empress said she would like to accompany His Majesty to support him. The Emperor was glad that Jin was so keen to go hunting with him. Baek Ga-yu, seeing the slave Jin-gong, said that he was the Empress's boy toy. Han laughed, and Her Highness asked if there was something funny about him not remembering who he really was. The young man said that he himself does not know, so he has many questions that need to be answered. Bayek said that he could ask his mistress about it and left. I heard that you are from the Jin kingdom, Han shouted at her. Baek Ga-yu turned to him and asked why he was saying this. The young man smiled and said that she was now a citizen of the kingdom of Cho. After all the people from the Jin kingdom, from the commoners to the aristocracy, are now dead, just like her parents. You don't seem to be bothered by the fact that you are the only person who survived. And now you feel comfortable in the imperial palace, he added. Baek Ga-yu was outraged by such insolence and grabbed the young man by the shirt. Han asked why she was so angry if it was true. Bayek hit him in the face. Then the young man apologized to Her Highness and said that he had crossed the line. While hunting, Han Ryuban looked at Emperor Hwang Wook and remembered the events of that night. The Jin kingdom attacked the Han kingdom. His parents, the king and queen, died. Ryuban asked Hwang Wook to take him with him to the war, but he refused, explaining that Han was not in the right state. Ryuban was so shocked by this refusal that he developed aphasia. Song Hong suggested Her Majesty tie her hair with a ribbon so it wouldn't catch on anything in these dense forests. Hwang Wook asked the minister for the tape and said he would do it himself. The girl said that she would consider it an honor that His Majesty would personally tie her hair. Before the hunt, everyone stopped to refresh themselves. Jean decided that she needed to eat well so that she would have the strength to escape. Han Ryuban was thinking at this moment that the Jin kingdom had once covered these mountains. But he knew that no one cared about his suffering. Han remembered how Hwang Wook had said that he would dump Ryuban if he became a burden to his brother. Minister Song Hoon called Han Ryuban and said that everyone had already gone hunting, and he did not answer when he was called. So Song-hoon suggested that they go together. Ryuban asked the minister not to worry about him and left alone. At this time, Emperor Hwang-wook asked Jin if she knew that there were large black bears in this forest. After some time, they heard some sounds that scared the girl very much. She asked the emperor to go and see where the noise was coming from. Suddenly, Ryuban came running to them from behind the bushes. He offered his help and told the empress that he would check for her if there was a bear. His Majesty said he would go check as well, and Jean was glad to be left alone. The girl let the horse smell her old clothes from the day she got here. It was a very intelligent imperial horse, and Jean hoped that it would be able to take her home. But suddenly behind her she saw a huge bear. At such a moment before death, a person begins to regret the life he lived. Jean blamed herself for always being in such a hurry. That morning a few years ago, she left the shelter without even eating breakfast. Her favorite teacher asked Jean to at least take something with her, but the girl refused. But having just stepped outside, she already regretted not having breakfast. The teacher asked her to call her when Jean arrived, but she didn't want to do that, so that the woman would let her go forever. From that moment on, she was always alone. Now Jean stood and pondered what to do. The girl fell to the ground and screamed, covering her head with her hands. Suddenly, she saw an arrow flying towards the bear. It was Han Ryuban who was trying to hit him. The man shouted to the empress to run to him at his signal. Hwang-wook came out from the other side with a sword. The emperor approached the bear and said that he was his opponent. Han Ryuban took Her Majesty away at this time. The empress was worried that Hwang-wook was left there alone. Ryuban fired a signal arrow into the sky and told the empress that he would call for help because a dead bear would be very heavy. Song-hong and the knights saw the signal. Everyone was surprised that this time the hunt ended so quickly. Jin was so worried about Hwang-wook that when she saw him covered in blood, she fainted and fell into his arms. For 3 days, the maid Cho-ah did not let anyone into the empress's chambers. She refused even to the emperor himself. Hwang-wook was angry that Han Jin-gun could see Her Majesty. In addition, Han asked His Majesty when the ancestral memorial rites would be held and added that he would accompany Her Majesty to the event. The emperor asked Cho-ah to inform him personally when the empress woke up. Until then, ancestral rites will be carried over. Minister Song-hong said that none of them had been able to see the empress, so they would have to wait a few more days. Baek Ga-yu was indignant and said that she was some kind of useless empress. Han Ryuban reassured her and said that they had finished the hunt much sooner than planned, so they could wait a bit and postpone the ancestral memorial rites. Baek Ga-yu suggested holding the ancestral rites without the empress, and Ryuban replied that this was her first memorial rite, so they would wait until she recovered. The emperor said his last word that they would wait, as 2 knights burst into the hall, announcing that Her Majesty had regained consciousness. Hwang-wook is happy, but it turns out that she has escaped from the palace. While everyone was looking for her, Jean was looking for her power bank in the grass. It fell as she passed out, and His Majesty carried her on his horse to the palace. The girl looked for a recharge and pondered whether she should thank the emperor for saving her. Suddenly, a huge shadow appeared behind her. Jean got scared and closed her eyes because she thought it was a huge bear again. Han Jin-gong grabbed Her Majesty's hand and apologized for scaring her. The young man added that it would not lead to anything good if anyone found out that they were here together alone. Jean replied that she would keep it a secret and not tell anyone. Han said that he would be very grateful to Her Majesty for that. He then handed her a broken power bank and asked if this was what she was looking for. Jean was very upset. The girl did not understand how to get into her world now. She didn't know where to run if things could get worse for this kingdom. And Han Jin-gong was pleased. He purposely broke the power bank so that she would need his help, thus becoming even more like his old acquaintance who was so similar to her. While the emperor was issuing orders to search for Her Majesty, the maid Cho-ah ran up to him and informed him that the empress had returned to her chambers. His Majesty asked where she was. Cho-ah said that according to Han Jin-gong, the empress was on her way to a memorial service. His Majesty became angry and asked if Her Majesty was alone with him. The maid reassured the emperor and said that some of the servants were with him. Then Emperor Hwang-wook ordered everyone to immediately prepare for the ancestral memorial ceremony. It was very nice at the ceremony. Jean couldn't take her eyes off the bright decorations. Han Jin-gong said that he never thought that the memorial rites would be held so lavishly. Her Majesty replied that every nation has its own traditions. She also added that she was not sure that she had the right to participate in such an event, as she was not familiar with its history. Han Jingong said that looking at the number of these graves, one could say that it was a terrible war. The young man added that he would like to know more about this terrible war. Emperor Huang Wook and Empress Jin Yo Rum were to begin the ceremony. His Majesty approached the girl and asked if she was all right. Jean answered that she woke up in the morning and felt pain all over her body, and because of this she went for a walk. Baek Ga-yu said it was time to give up this empress. Huang Wook took Jin's hand and offered to watch the fireworks together. The empress asked in surprise how much time had to be spent to organize this day. The emperor replied that they should pray for the souls of those who gave their lives for their country in that terrible war. Jean asked if the bodies of the warriors were buried here. Huang Wook said that under the memorial are the bodies of soldiers. But because they were mutilated, it was even difficult to find out where the defenders were and where the enemies were. So he decided to bury everyone here and make a memorial, thus abandoning the customs of the Cho kingdom. This was Huang Wook's first royal order. Baek Ga-yu was dressed up as a celestial maiden, and she closed her eyes before going out in public. She remembered that today was the day again when the war ended, when her nation collapsed. His Majesty was informed that the celestial maiden was ready to leave. Then the emperor told everyone present that the heavenly maiden would proceed to appease the souls of all those who died in the war. 5 years ago in the Jin kingdom, soldiers kidnapped a little girl and killed her mother in front of her. They threw the girl off the cliff in order to sacrifice her to the god of war. Seeing Baek Ga-yu in the form of a heavenly maiden, Huang Wook cried. He quickly wiped away his tears and told the empress that an emperor should not cry and show his weaknesses. Her Majesty said that the tears would help him overcome the heavy feeling on his soul. The heart will be cleansed of bad emotions and will be able to be filled with new good emotions. Jean suggested His Majesty rest while she went out to the people and did her job as empress. Huang Wook looked at her and thought that this girl was indeed sent to him from heaven. Coming out to the people, Jin remembered that she too was once as tired as the emperor. She pretended that everything was fine when she herself wanted to die. After 6 months of continuous work, the girl noticed that something went wrong. She was left alone with her demons, which were eating her from the inside. Outside, Jean didn't notice the change in the weather, and her favorite TV shows didn't make her happy for the rest of the year. It seemed to her that she would soon die from exhaustion. That day, the boss informed her and her colleagues that tomorrow everyone would have to write a knowledge test. The girls began to discuss what they would do if they failed the test. Most of them said that they would ask their parents for money and also get them a job. Then Jean thought how good it was to have somewhere to go back to, when someone was waiting for you somewhere. She went home upset and thought that her death would be the best solution. It will not be necessary to work so much and constantly apologize for the fact that you are innocent. The girl thought that she would no longer have to destroy her true self for the sake of her false self. Now Jean looked up at the stars and reflected that she was happy here. When the Empress returned to His Majesty, he sadly told her that his brother would make an ideal emperor with his queen. Jin then said that she will always be his queen, and Huang Wook was very happy. His Majesties were informed that it was time to announce the closing of the memorial ceremony. The emperor came forward to the people and said that another year has passed, but everyone remembers those they lost in this war. The end of the war was devastating and brought much suffering. Therefore, His Majesty called on all citizens to always remember the dead and grieve for them. If someone forgets, he can come back here and remember the soldiers. After all, the souls of the dead are here forever. As everyone was crying from the ceremony, Song Hong saw Han Jingong smiling. The minister wondered if he really did not remember anything. The next day it rained heavily. Choa told Her Majesty that this is always the case the day after the memorial service, as if the kingdom mourns the loss of the late emperor. Jin asked the maids if the late emperor was Emperor Huang Wook's brother. Choa confirmed Her Majesty's words, and at that moment Song Hoon approached them. The minister told the maid that he would then accompany the empress. He then turned to Han Jingong and said that he could go from here. A few minutes before that, they had a rather interesting conversation. The minister asked the young man if he had really lost his memories. Song Hoon said that he does not believe that he is a local. Han Jingong only smiled and said nothing. Song Hong then said that only people from the Jin kingdom could hide their true intentions behind beautiful words. The young man remained silent. Then the minister asked him directly, Han Jingong, are you from the kingdom of Jin? Han replied that he does not remember his past, so anything is possible. Jin Gong asked why it was so important, what country he was from. The young man added that he would still stay with the Empress. Song Hoon said that he won't allow it. Then Han Jin Gong said that he had heard of a certain minister who continued to serve the new emperor after his former master's death. Han said he was glad he lost his memories, because if he were that man, he wouldn't be able to bear the shame of living with a new master after his old one died. The rain didn't stop, and Huang Wook said that even nature knew he didn't deserve to sit on the throne. That is why the emperor needed the help of Her Majesty Jin Yoram so much. At this time outside, because of the heavy rain, Han Jin Gong did not want to follow the minister's order. Besides, Han said that he obeyed the empress, not him. The young man said that he would do as the empress wished. Her Majesty said she did not understand what was going on here. Minister Song Hoon then asked permission to explain to her. He said that the empress was under the care of the emperor. As for him, he has been under the care of the emperor since the reign of the previous emperor. Therefore, as a subordinate of the emperor, Song Hong ordered Han Jin Gong as a subordinate of the empress to get out of here. Han said that he had crossed the line in his desire to serve the empress and left. Jean realized that something was wrong between them. So Her Majesty told the minister not to take offense at the boy, as he was struggling to remember something about himself. Song Hong then asked the empress if she trusted this man. Jean replied that she trusted, although in reality she did not. The minister said that His Majesty trusted her. He said that when he asked him if he trusted his wife, Wang Wook said yes without even thinking. Song Hoon said he wanted to tell Her Majesty something. Jean answered that she was ready to listen to him. 5 years ago, the Jin Kingdom attacked the Han Kingdom. This event became known as the War of the Jin Kingdom. Because Emperor Jin lacked military skills, Emperor Huang Wook was able to lead his army to victory. But this led to huge human costs. Here, one day Han Ryuban again begged Huang Wook to take him with him to battle. But the emperor told him to stay with the minister, and suddenly, a girl fell from the rock into the water near them. Han Ryuban ordered a search of the top of the mountain to catch those scoundrels who had done this to the girl. He took off his robe and changed this stranger's clothes. After some time, the soldiers gave him the glad tidings that they had won. But there was also the bad news that Emperor Huang Ulim had died in a decisive battle. The minister was very loyal to his master from childhood. Therefore, he took his death hard. Song Hong asked to be given a sword in order to go to the other world for the emperor. From being unable to serve the emperor to leaving him alone, he said he would give his worthless life as payment for these deeds. The soldiers did not know what to answer him, and whether to give the sword. And here, Huang Wook jumped up to them and informed Song Hoon that he wanted to make him his assistant. Song Hong asked to kill him so that he would fulfill the traditions of the Cho Kingdom and follow the emperor. Huang Wook then asked why he wouldn't even try to serve the new emperor. The man asked Huang Wook if he trusted him that much. The new emperor replied that there was no one smarter than the minister of the previous emperor. He added that the Cho Kingdom remained powerful during these years of war because they had destroyed many enemies. And this is thanks to the fact that his brother trusted his minister. Huang Wook said that he should not be considered an emperor in the history of the Cho Kingdom. And even if this day is hard to lose, it is enough to remember it. Therefore, the emperor ordered Song Hong to stay around and be his minister. The man rose from his knees, thanked His Majesty and shook his hand. His Majesty Huang Wook called Baek Ga-yu and Han Ryuban to him, and informed them that now Empress Jin Yo-ram will be teaching them. Baek Ga-yu indignantly asked why she could learn from this foreign girl. Ryuban reassured her and told her that it was a royal order. Then the girl asked Khan if he was tired of following these ridiculous orders. Ga-yu then asked if it was too early to trust her enough to learn. Huang Wook replied that their opinions didn't matter to him, but he asked to trust him, because he had felt for a long time that this girl would lead their country to a happy future. Jean recalled how a senior manager once approached her and offered her a promotion. He said she wouldn't have to answer the phone. It will be possible if she joins the coaching team, because she has been working here for a whole year and is working very hard. The girl asked if she was ready for this. The manager reminded the girl that her salary would be higher, and then she could become a central manager. Jean thanked him for the offer. In fact, she didn't want the promotion because she knew she would have to work even harder and still have to answer the phone. Baek Ga-yu asked the empress what she was going to teach them, unless how to tempt the emperor. Jean herself did not know what she could teach them. The empress replied that she would teach them her innate abilities, namely communication with people. Han Ryuban approached her and asked if she was okay. Jean didn't understand what he was asking. The man said he was very worried about Her Majesty when she passed out. The girl replied that she was fine. Baek Gayu saw their conversation and ran away. The Empress asked His Highness if he should not follow her and bring her back. The Emperor, whom Gayu had run past, told Minister Song Hong that it was very important to learn to control one's emotions. The minister replied that His Majesty was right. When they were alone, Jin wondered why Ryuban was so nice to her. If no one lies in this country, can he hide any bad intentions? Han Ryuban asked Her Majesty when she would begin teaching them. She replied that she wanted to practice with him and Her Highness Gayu, and she ran away. Then the young man asked if there would be a lesson tomorrow. Jin replied that His Majesty Emperor Huang Wook would also come. Han Ryuban said he didn't want to hear anything about him when she was around. Baek Gayu ran outside in tears and didn't notice how she bumped into Han Jingung. The young man was glad that after the morning's failure, he got such a surprise. Jin didn't understand why Han Ryuban hated the emperor so much. After saying goodbye to him, she went outside and saw Han Jingung there with Baek Gayu. Han gave Her Highness a hand to stand up and asked why she was alone. Gayu got angry with him, and the young man let go of her hand, and Baek fell to the ground. The Empress came up to them and slapped him in the face. She said she saw everything. Jean said he specifically extended a helping hand to push, but Han Jingung said that this was not the case at all. He just wanted help, but his hand slipped. At that moment, the Emperor approached them together with His Highness Ryuban. The Empress told His Majesty what had happened, and the Emperor asked Her Majesty if she was all right, and so did Han Ryuban. This offended Baek and she ran away again. Han Jingung wanted to bow, but the Empress stopped him. She said she no longer needed his help. Her Majesty ordered Minister Song Hong to find Han Jingung a new home away from her, while Han himself focused on recovering his memories. The Emperor said that from now on he would live in a place far away from the court of the Empress. His Majesty ordered Song Hoon to accompany the stranger to the library. In the library, the minister told Han Jingung that this place was very well guarded by soldiers, so now he would not be able to move freely around the imperial palace grounds. Han looked at the table and remembered how he had been hiding under the table and waiting for her. The young man decided that this was not the time to give in to emotions, and asked what kind of place it was. The Empress thanked His Majesty for escorting her to the palace. Jin said that she would apologize to Han Jingung tomorrow for hitting him. Huang Wook said that she did that because he insulted the girl. The girl replied that violence is not a way out of any situation. Huang Wook then asked if it wasn't burdensome to always be on the side of the people without any bias. He said she was his good-natured empress. Han Jingung was delighted to have reached the place he had dreamed of, namely the library. He thought that he needed to be very cunning in order to achieve his goal. One day, out of nowhere, a box with all-powerful items appeared. Only a select few had to use them. Han Jingung's homeland, the Jin Kingdom, was rapidly developing in the field of technology and science, and was turning into a country with a highly developed civilization. But that was before the war. Cha Yisul loved him and said that he had every chance to become the manager of the Imperial Library. When the Cho Kingdom army attacked, she went to fight. Han persuaded her to hide with him in the library and then surrender and ask for asylum. But the girl said that he had just renounced his country. Han Jingung reminded Cha Yisul that they were scholars. Therefore, even under the most difficult circumstances, their task is to find a better solution for the kingdom. The girl said that she would still try to fight. Jingung then asked her to promise that she would return. Cha Yisul promised, but it was her first and last lie. The young man was sitting under the table and looking at a photo of them together on his phone. After a while, Han ran outside and saw Emperor Huang Wook there commanding his army. Jingung decided that it was his fault that Cha Yisul was killed by his soldiers. Then he swore that he would live to get revenge. In the evening, Jin sat on her bed and remembered Huang Wook's words about her being a very good person. The girl thought that she was not like that. After all, a good person allows everyone else to use him and is silent at the same time. And Jean decided that she would definitely find a way out and return home. Well, it's been 2 months since she got here. Emperor Huang Wook thanked his wife for settling the rotten potato dispute. Minister Song Hoon said this was the last dispute for today. Jean knew that meant it was lunchtime. It was the best in this world. Local food. While nobody saw, Jean took a picture of her food on her phone. Lately, she has taken a lot of photos for memory. Her rooms, the imperial court, a wonderful fountain. Jean knew that soon she would return home and would fondly remember those days, in which there were many good and pleasant moments. Han saw that she was taking pictures and smiled.